Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Daniel Hendrick Experience. I am super glad you're here because we have a superstar with us today. This young fella's voice is absolutely astounding. If you have ever wanted to hear the perfect Radames from Aida or the perfect Otello, this young fella's got it. Big, rich voice. He has continued to thrill audiences with his captivating stage presence and his, I love this word, describing his voice, stentorian yet beautiful sound. Pulliam was recently praised by the San Francisco Chronicle for his full-throated vocal power and intimate lyricism, and his recent debut in Livermore Valley Opera in Verdi's Otello. On December 17th, 2022, he made his Met Opera debut as Radames in Aida, which also served as his role debut. And I got to tell you, I wish I was there to hear that performance because his voice is absolutely astounding. My brother Limmie, I just want to welcome you to the podcast and thank you for being here. It's an honor.
Thank you for having me.
So, early in my career, I ran into a ton of obstacles and loss of my voice. And, my listeners have heard the whole story, so I won't go into it. But it took me 8 years to get it back. And people stopped along the way. They didn't believe in me, tried to tell me to give up. How about you? Have you had trouble getting to this unbelievable height that you're at right now in your career?
Well, I wouldn't say it's an unbelievable height, but I think most people in this career have issues, uh, troubles at some point in their career, um, whether it's you know singing wise or having technique issues or something that they may run into along the way, or whether it's just issues um, building a career itself, getting the right auditions, singing for the right people at the right time, singing the right repertoire. Um, there's so many different aspects of this career that can kind of throw obstacles in your way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, I think many of us have gone through those periods where um, the work just wasn't coming as we had hoped. Our schedules weren't as full as we would like them to be, and you do start to question whether or not, okay, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right thing for me? Should I be doing something else?
Wow.
Um, so I think it's completely normal, completely natural for someone to run into those type of questions when pursuing a career, especially in some form of entertainment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with me, it was different. Some of the obstacles I ran into were um, had nothing to do with the singing, had nothing to do with the acting, had nothing to do with my abilities. It was more had to deal with physical appearance, uh,
Okay.
body image. Um, the there was a time when opera singers were um, historically kind of larger bodied individuals,
Right.
uh, and times have changed. We
Mm-hmm.
know times have changed over the years, and in an attempt to, I guess, sort of change with the times, the industry began adapting um, what I thought were unrealistic standards for singers. Um, they started putting these kind of unrealistic um, requirements on um, the type of voices and the type of singers that they would hire, and it had more to do with the person's look as opposed to the person's sound. Um,
A little more Broadway-esque.
yeah, not necessarily more Hollywood-esque.
Hollywood,
Um,
yes. Okay.
um, so it was, it made it difficult um, for artists like myself who are artists of size. Um, I always thought that I had kind of a double whammy going against me early in the career, being an artist of size, but also being an artist of color,
Mm-hmm.
which also poses its own um, set of obstacles for many in this industry.
Yes.
Um, so I think we've all gone through it where we've questioned, um, is this what I should be doing? Yes, I've had people, tell me maybe I should consider doing other things. Um,
I know
maybe,
the feeling.
yeah, maybe this isn't the career for you. Have you thought about doing such and such and such and such instead of saying, I've you hear it all. And everyone has an opinion. Um, but what it comes down to is you being um secure in who you are as an individual and knowing that you have something to say as an artist that's worth hearing. Um, and despite the obstacles that may pop up in your way, um, continuing to push forward and making yourself heard, and not giving up just because there's a wall in your way. Because you can either
Wow.
the wall or you can go around it, take the long way around it. I've been lucky enough to be able to go through some walls, um, in my time.
Good for
Uh,
you.
so it's you know, as long as you have to be secure in who you are as an artist and
Wow. Did you
secure.
always have that, or did somebody
No,
teach
no,
you that?
I didn't. It was something that I kind of gained over time. Um, it was difficult to hear that no one wanted to hire you because of your body size. Um,
Mm.
so that those type of rejections, it's one thing to be rejected on, oh, well, you're not the right voice type we're looking for right now. Or,
Yes.
but to have people constantly tell you, oh, what a wonderful instrument you have, but, or, you would make the perfect so and so, but when you hear that over and over again, it starts to, you start to, um, you may start to believe it, and it's
Yes.
to wear on you, and you start to, yeah, I've dealt with the depression of having to constantly deal with the rejection over, or because of my body size.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it took time to have to deal with that and to come to terms to accepting, who I am as an individual, learning to love myself as I am, um,
Mm.
love myself wherever I am in my life, despite what might be going on, um, and starting to do things on my own terms. Um, no longer did I felt like I have to conform um, to the industry standards where, um, I had to look a certain way, or act a certain way or sound a certain way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was more of a, oh, I'm sorry for the background noises there.
That's all right.
I
Yeah. It's all a part of it.
emails off.
Sometimes people have
But
their
it,
dogs and their dog starts coming in. It's all
yeah, the emails are popping in.
uh,
But a matter of being willing to to forge your own path,
yes.
um, and being brave enough to forge your own path, despite the obstacles. The more I heard, and it took some time for me to do that, to get to the point to where I was able to accept myself for who I am, for what I am, for how I am. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and once I was able to do that, um, I think it unleashed an entirely, um, new level of artistry, that I was able to share, because I had a new sense of of not being afraid of being vulnerable in front of an audience.
Mm.
Um,
That's a
and
powerful tool.
it is, and it's a necessary tool,
Mm-hmm.
um, in this industry, to just being willing to put it all on the stage and give everything that you have on any given night to, um you know I had to learn to, whether the audience I was in front of was 100 people or 1,000 people, they deserved everything that I could give in that moment.
Mm.
And that's been my goal ever since I returned to singing, in 2012, that regardless of the size of the audience, I'm going to give them everything that I can in that moment. um, it doesn't matter if I'm singing in someone's home, in someone's basement or church basement or uh, the grandest theater uh, in the world.
Excellent.
They're going to get the best of me in that moment.
Wow. Beautiful. So you mentioned church. Were you raised a religious person?
I was my father was a pastor. He pastored a church for over 50 years. Um, and yeah, so I grew up in a very religious home. Um, Gospel music is the
Mm.
foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and it was my first introduction to music. Um, and it still plays a huge role in who I am as an artist today. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the having the opportunities to sing as a young child in church, um, and learning early on how the human voice can move and affect people, um, was a huge lesson for
Mm-hmm.
me, um, and one that I learned at an early age to take very seriously. Um,
Yes.
have the privilege of standing in front of an audience and
Mm-hmm.
uh, to share one's God-given gift is
Yes.
is a privilege that no one should take lightly, and which is yet another reason that we should be giving our all whenever we have the opportunity to do that.
That's beautiful. Yes, I was raised in a Pentecostal church.
Yes, as was I.
Okay. So that's what I attribute me learning the freedom of letting go and not
Mhm.
being afraid to like you were saying, vulnerability, to be
Yes.
authentic, to be in the presence of God and allow that, in a way, God singing through you.
Mhm.
um, and what that teaches you almost on a DNA level is you can't learn that in school.
No, no, that's something that can be taught. Um, and it's, luckily I had some great um, examples to follow as I was growing up in the church and
Mm-hmm.
watching other musicians and singers as they would, uh, whether it was leading worship service or just singing a solo or something of that nature, um, just to watch and learn from people who had years and years of experience. Um, though it was in church, they knew how to connect with their audience,
Yes.
and that's something that every artist um, must learn to do, is how best to connect with your audience.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah, I always thought of it like you're connecting and you're sharing this divine presence that is there. And it helps each of us to see that that God is present.
Mhm.
And that is a healing, powerful moment for so many people. And you, my friend, I'm so glad that you decided to go back to singing, because what a gift. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to just share with you him singing Nessun Dorma. Do you remember where this took place?
Uh, which recording are you sharing? Is it,
It
am I wearing
is,
tell or am I wearing just a black?
yeah,
com-
that.
Ah, that is from the 40th anniversary gala for what was then called Springfield Regional Opera, which is now
Okay.
called Ozark Lyric Opera, out of
Okay.
Springfield, Missouri. This was for their 40th anniversary gala. When my dear friend and the artistic director there, Michael Spires, who's a fellow tenor of renown.
Um, tenor
Um,
baritone.
yeah, baritone. Um, who is the artistic director for Ozark Lyric Opera,
Okay.
invited me to take part in their 40th anniversary gala, and this was one of the pieces he asked me to sing.
Okay. Well, let's play it. love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. And you had the nice Pavarotti move at the end there. I love that. That was beautiful.
Well, yeah, that was a good night. It was one of those evenings where, um, you know, as a live performer, rarely do you have those nights where you're 100%. You
Uh-huh.
know, you're
Yes.
never really at 100%. But for some reason that night, um, I felt about as close to 100% as one could. Um,
Mm,
and it was one of those rare nights that no matter what I asked the voice to do, it was able to do it. Um,
beautiful. Yeah,
whether
I noticed when you're going through the passaggio, that passaggio just lined up perfect, right? And I've sung this aria many times, and I know that feeling going through the passaggio, what can happen. And
oh
you
yeah.
just kept it in that perfect position. And it even sounded like you were slowing down on the high notes to even elongate them even longer. Most tenors are rushing through those A naturals, you know.
Well, I was actually I actually told the maestro. I said, we're gonna, Puccini is filled with rubati, and we're gonna milk them tonight. Um,
I heard
and every
it.
one of them, the dileguanote, we
Hmm.
just we just took our time and let the music speak for itself. And
Wow.
you know, it was just one of those. Like I said, it was just a good night. It was a good night.
Hmm.
It's
Beautiful. And at the same time, you had an unbelievable diminuendo there on the
Splendida.
Splendida Splend. That's also not so easy to do, but kudos
No,
to
but
you.
the voice just, it was one of those. It was kind of a last minute decision that I
Hmm.
was going to do that. And the voice obliged.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those. I don't think I did anything differently than I normally do. Um, on any given evening that I'm performing or singing. The last thing I do before I walk out on any stage is I pray. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and my prayer is that that the audience will experience God's presence through our music making. And
Beautiful.
that,
Beautiful.
I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the music and feeling God's presence through the music. And that, I think that was one of the nights that I ultimately, uh, that prayer was answered. Um, because it was, I don't want to sound immodest, but it was a pretty great performance. And
You were a vessel in that moment.
exactly. And and it's one of those performances that I dare not try to recreate,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
because it's, you know you
And
can't.
thank God they recorded it.
Yes, yes, I'm very glad it was recorded.
Hmm.
That is not
Because,
a, and I think a lot of people in when I'm asked to do concerts or galas, and they automatically goes, "Oh, well, you sing Nessun Dorma," that they're expecting a recreation of that performance.
hmm,
But who's to say that that I don't go in trying to recreate that performance.
no,
Yeah,
that would be trouble.
yes,
Because the next
that's
performance
asking for
could be better, could be worse, but
right.
it's like kids. They're all different.
It's very much different. The orchestras are different, the maestri is different.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so you have to take everything into consideration, when you're going into a new situation, and being open to the
Hmm.
possibility of new ideas, musical ideas, as you're working through pieces.
That's excellent. So you said something very interesting that that was one of those nights where it was working and you did the diminuendo there. So would you say that you like have foreknowledge when you just know it's going to work before you do it, that your voice is in a sense telling you, yeah, it's okay, go for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, the minute I started singing the splurge, when I sang the first of that note, I knew at that point that if I did it, it would work.
There you
Um,
go. There you go.
and so I just, I held it, and then I slowly started to pull it back, and it
Uh-huh.
luckily it worked. and
Yes.
and but I've been in pretty situations where I've thought that I might be able to do something at some point, but then I have to kind of change it up rather quickly and say, oh, no, 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 it's not going to work tonight. We got to do it this
Uh
way. Uh,
yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I work with students all the time, as I was telling you earlier, and that's one of the keys is learning to listen to your voice, I believe. And what
Mhm.
does it tell you? What does it want to give you? And in those moments where it's clear that it says, "Yeah, go for it. Don't be afraid." And obviously, by what we just heard there, you had the faith.
Yes.
And I think as you were talking about growing up in the church, we learned those kind of lessons in those moments, that instinct of how that works. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
You learn that it becomes part of your instinct and learning how to quickly adjust to a situation. Um, whether um, with gospel music, a lot of it includes a lot of improvisational aspects,
Mm-hmm.
which come in handy in this career,
Yes.
and in singing in general. And that, in the midst of something, you can kind of pivot rather quickly, um, to make an adjustment if needed.
Absolutely.
Whereas, I may have an evening where I'll sing a note, and the placement is just not where I want it to be, and it may be a little too open of a
Mm-hmm.
vowel for me. Um, and the next time I come back to it, I make an adjustment. Um, and I continue to make that adjustment until I find the place where I need that, where that vowel is going to be the most efficient for me.
Mm-hmm. And do you have cognition about that in the sense that, okay, I'm going to close it and this is how I'm going to do it? Or do you really follow more instinctually how you're going to do it? Or both?
I think it's a little bit of both. Um, in that, I'm very aware of, those instances where I may sing something and it's like, those vowels didn't quite line up the way they should have. Um, and as I'm, you know, working my way through the piece and maybe coming back to a phrase that's similar to that, I'm thinking about that previous phrase and say, okay, this is how it didn't line up. These are the adjustments I need to make in order for it to line up. Okay, this is my opportunity to try it here. And
Yes.
you know, you have to be able to make
Interesting.
make those adjustments on the fly, and that's just one of those things that happens in live entertainment. You never know what's going to happen.
Uh-huh.
Uh, you know, you could be on stage and a piece of scenery falls.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make an
Yes.
adjustment.
I sang
So
Tosca one time and I'm dead there on the floor and the curtain's coming right down on top of me. And this is the end of the opera, right? And I hear it, and somebody's whispering to me behind me, "The curtain's going to get you." And their curtains are heavy with the little metal on
yeah,
the
that the
bottom.
weight the weight is
And
on the
I had to
bottom.
roll right out at the last second so I didn't get hit by the curtain. Audience starts laughing. Well, I guess he's not dead. But anyhow, so you started in the church, which for me, I think is the best education of all. So, how did you get into the opera thing?
And again, like you said, I started in the church. I grew up in the Church of God in Christ, which has a huge musical legacy, a great musical legacy. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't until maybe middle school when
Okay.
I decided to join the school choir. Um, and I believe it was seventh grade was the first year that we had choir. Um, and so it's and it wasn't that I wanted to be in choir because I wanted to sing. I wanted to be in choir because all my friends were in choir.
Mm.
I wanted to be around all my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined the choir, and I would sit in the back of the class, um, and I sang from seventh through eighth grade. I sang bass in the choir. Um, Not that I was a bass,
Mm-hmm.
but it was where I thought I could be and sing and not stand out.
Okay.
uh, and just kind of be in the presence and be around all my friends and have fun, but not
Mm-hmm.
really. My plan wasn't to be a standout singer in the group. Um, as a teen, I loved watching movies and old movies and different things, and I kind of developed a knack for doing impersonations. So I used to do impersonations of James Cagney and uh, Jimmy Stewart and all these great actors. And
Well, not to put you on the spot, but since you
I haven't
mentioned
done
it,
them in years. I haven't done them in years.
I used to do the Jimmy Stewart one, and
Let me tell you something here. But I haven't done them in years.
that's
Uh,
great.
but my favorite thing when in It's a Wonderful Life. I know what I'm going to do today. The day after that, I'm going to go out and see the world. But
That's
it
wonderful.
was in doing the impersonations. I also did impersonations of singers, uh,
Mm,
Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, things you wouldn't think like a seventh grader would be doing impersonations of. Uh,
yes.
but I also did impersonation of Stevie Wonder. Um, and that is, we were in class one day, and my friends kept saying, "Oh, to our teacher, Miss Sexton, who was my choir director at the time, you got to hear Limmie sing. You got to hear Limmie do Stevie Wonder. He does great Stevie Wonder impersonation." And again, I wasn't one of the standout kids in the group in the class. I wanted to hide in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as she tells a story, she said, I wasn't expecting much, and she made them a promise. She said, if we get our work done early today, I'll let me do some impersonations. So we got our work done early, and we did. She let me do some impersonations. I did, everything from my Jimmy Stewart, the James Cagney. I used to do. Her favorite was my impersonation of Jimmy Swaggart,
Oh
the
my
preacher.
good. Of course. Yeah.
This
Also
was around the time when
Pentecostal.
he was, yeah, which was also during the time when he had his major scandal
Okay.
uh, after being caught in the hotel room. Um,
Mm-hmm. With his lady friends. Okay.
with his lady friend, and he made a big apology on national TV.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so
So you
my
mimicked that.
I mimicked his apology on national TV, and he and to this day she'll still try to get me to do it
Mm-hmm.
when I'm around other people. But then it came to the Stevie Wonder impersonation, and I started singing, and afterwards she was like, "I think I need you to stay after class."
Mm. Here we
And that
go.
made, and this is when the gig was up, because I just wanted to sing and not be heard in class. So I sang in the bass section. I used to tell her, I can't sing above a middle C, even though I didn't know what a middle C was, but I knew once it got to that point on the sheet of music, I didn't want to sing any higher than that. So I would always say, "Oh no, that's too high. I can't sing that note." Um, but then she heard my Stevie Wonder impersonation and realized I was not a bass, but a tenor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and promptly moved me to the tenor section my freshman year of high school. And from there, she began working with us, and she was teaching us vocal technique in choir without us even realizing it. Uh,
Mm.
but when it came time around my junior year is when she introduced me to opera um, through music sung by Luciano Pavarotti. Um,
Who is that?
by Luciano Pavarotti. She gave
Oh,
me a cassette tape.
I never heard of that guy.
Better, some young Italian tenor, uh, you know, pretty decent voice. He was,
Yeah.
mid-late kind of tenor.
Yeah.
Um,
Had trouble with his high notes, but yeah.
oh, definitely. Um, she one day after class, she handed me a cassette tape and a piece of sheet
Mm.
music, and said, "I want you to take this home." She goes, "I know you don't speak Italian or you don't read it, but you're good at mimicking things. So listen to this guy sing it, and learn the words from how he's saying it, and learn the tune. And I want you to bring it back in and sing it for me." So the first time I came in and sang it, I was of course mimicking Luciano Pavarotti when I came in, and so she heard me mimicking his voice. Um, she thought, okay, if you can make that kind of sound, we need to find your sound now.
Mm-hmm.
So she started me from that to finding my own voice, through um, the voice of Luciano Pavarotti.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, So that's how I began to find my voice, and she began working with me more one on one. And when it came time to start thinking about schooling and whatnot, I decided that this was something I wanted to pursue, and so we did, and ended up at the Oberlin Conservatory from there.
Amazing story. And what you did is what I teach a lot. I use certain voices to help people get beyond their own roadblocks, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay, if you're a mezzo, how would Marilyn Horn sing that? Or if you're a tenor, and if Pavarotti doesn't work, then I'll switch to tenor. And then
Mhm.
you find someone, and it's same with the pop singers I teach. How would Sinatra sing it, or how would Dean Martin? If they're tight, I say Dean Martin because his throat was so loose, right? And that's what I call neural singing, is where you're accessing, in your case, the right brain, and accessing memory and concept of how you perceive they sound. And I think there is a God-given ability that we have to be able to translate it. And there you
Mhm.
can learn things that you
Yeah,
already know, but you don't know that you know it.
exactly.
So kudos to you for doing that. Wow. All right. So then you went to Oberlin.
Went to Oberlin and was where I studied with the late great pedagogue Richard Miller,
Mm-hmm.
uh, who really helped me solidify my vocal foundation.
Mm-hmm.
In the time I worked with him, I think I learned, um, you know, I what I learned working with him is what I still use to this day. Um,
Wow.
and very little has changed in that time. Um, yes, I've had to make some adjustments as I've gotten older, but um, the 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 basic technique is still the same thing I learned in my first semester at Oberlin. Um,
Mm.
and I still use the same approaches when I'm approaching new music and learning new roles, and um, the same methods, and if it works, if it ain't broke, you know why
Keep
why
doing
meddle
it.
with
Do
it? Yeah.
you have a
Um,
favorite role?
um, the right answer to this would be whatever role I'm singing at the moment. That would be the answer that I should give. But my I would have to say my favorite role is to sing Otello.
Mm.
It's a
What a role.
I it the role itself really does fit me like a glove. It fits me vocally like a glove.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's one I a role I think I'll never tire of singing,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope I'll be able to sing um, for the duration of my career, and for the duration of whatever time I have left here.
Mm-hmm.
Hope to be able to sing that role as often and as possible.
Well, as a tenor fan, I could tell you, hearing you, it sounds like that voice was created for Otello. The size of your instrument, the color of your instrument, and you bring a uniqueness to it that you have freedom in your instrument. Because a lot of times voices that are that big and powerful are a bit lethargic and not so free.
Hmm.
From my perspective, you have a lot of freedom in your passaggio and the top. It doesn't sound muscled at all.
Well, luckily it was one of those things I learned early on that when you begin to muscle things, that's when you really start to have problems.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so you know, my method of thinking is that the higher I go, the lower I think. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going up, I'm thinking low, thinking lower, 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 as opposed to um, kind of
Lifting up to it. Uh-huh.
get up to it. I'm thinking of keeping the breath low and just kind of going into it, not reaching for it. Um, and that tends to help me in that um, you know, I've always had somewhat of an easy top. Um, as the voice has changed over the years from a more of a lyric to more of a spinto, um, I've had to make some adjustments in how I approach the top. Um,
Mm.
but it's still a relatively easy top. Um, once I was able to find the necessary adjustments. I did go through a period where um, I felt that I was having some issues with my high notes. Everyone else thought they sounded pretty good, and but I wasn't satisfied with them. Um, and um, and that was coming out of the pandemic, uh,
Mm.
where for the first you know season we were having to sing rehearsals masked.
Oh.
So it was um, having to sing in a mask really began to um, mess with my ear.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That gave new meaning to singing in the mask.
yes, yes, and it really began to give me some uh, some issues that had things been um, prolonged any longer than they had would have, I probably would have decided to take some time off to avoid having to sing masked. Um, but it was it was I think that's the only time that I've ever really had any concern technically
Mm-hmm.
about what I was doing vocally, having to kind of make those constant adjustments of singing masked and then unmasked in some situations, and then you go through the whole rehearsal period in a mask, and then come time for the performances, you're unmasked, um, so you have to make even more adjustments, and
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, it was a pretty trying time.
That's amazing. And you said that when you went from more of a lyric tenor to a spinto tenor, you had to make adjustments on the top. What kind of adjustments were they? What was that to you?
to re- the biggest adjustment was trying to resist carrying up too much weight.
Ah,
Um, because it's one of those things where when you have kind of a naturally darker voice, um, you can kind of fall into the tendency of wanting to carry that weight all the way to
yes.
the top. You
Mm-hmm.
know, bottom and the middle is going to be nice and dark. You want that top to be nice and dark as well, for balance, or so you think. But I had to learn to um, that as I work through the passaggio, not to um, that and lightening things up a bit as I'm going through,
Mm-hmm.
that I that it didn't take away from the fullness of the tone. The
Mm-hmm.
fullness was there. I didn't have to do anything to kind of to create and keep that fullness. That if I sang um, in a healthy manner, and one that didn't um, try to carry up too much weight, that the top was just as full as the rest of the voice. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid that it may start to thin out,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't. Um, but it took me some time to kind of get my ear adjusted to that, to not want to take the weight up. Um,
Mm.
because it was one of the and what the reason why is because I could take the weight up, and the notes would still come out and they would sound pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But even though they had the fullness, they lacked that squillo,
Mm-hmm.
that you want, that ring of the
Mm-hmm.
tenorals, um, wasn't there fully. So it was, just kind of resist those urges to want to, you know, keep that manly sound going on
Yes.
at the top, because it's going to be there
Yes.
if you just you know work your way naturally through the passaggio. Um, the top is going to be nice, full, ringing, free, um, and
I hear that in your
you'll be
voice.
able to depend on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I've been blessed that high notes are the last thing I have to think about. Um, it's-
That is a blessing for a tenor, that's for sure.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they're the the last thing I think of, are the high notes.
Beautiful.
It's usually everything else that I'm worried about than I am the high notes.
Was there a tenor that kind of inspired you the most or that you influenced you?
Like I listen to lots and lots and lots of tenors. Um, that was one of the great things about being at Oberlin, is that they had such an extensive library, of music, recorded music, um, and I would spend much of my free time in the library in a listening room, whether watching DVDs or laser discs or VHS recordings of operas, um, or listening to uh, you know some of the great singers of the past. From I listened to everyone from Pavarotti to Domingo to Carreras, the three tenors, to Björling and Alfredo Kraus and Bergonzi, um, Pertile, G,
Mm.
um, so many great voices from the past that I would just listen to in admiration. Um, you know, to I think one of the first voices that really kind of stuck out to me and became one of my favorites was Fritz Wunderlich.
Oh,
Um,
gorgeous.
and I remember the first time I heard him, I began working on an aria that I was assigned from Die lustigen Weiber von Windsor, the Merry Wives of Windsor,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and the Horch die Lache singt im Hain.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember trying to sing this aria in my lesson, and this was I was fairly young at the time and was still kind of learning to navigate the passaggio. Um,
Mm.
and I just remember um, I was so frustrated with this aria, so frustrated. And I remember being he said, well, you know the piece now, you know the notes. Uh, Go and listen to some of the older singers singing this piece. Uh,
Mm.
and so I think I found I went looking for a recording of Björling to see if he had sung it. And this recording of a tenor I'd never heard of, Fritz Wunderlich, came up.
Mm.
And so I checked it out and went to a little listening station. And from the first note, my jaw was on the ground. And I think I spent that first day probably an hour just hitting repeat on the aria, listening to that aria. As he
Mm.
was singing that, "Euch die Lächer singt im Haus." and working, and it was just, I just remember sitting there and listening to how easy it was for him, or how it's
Mm-hmm.
easy it sounded for him,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and to hear how, as a young singer, my biggest thing was I was always afraid to sing too open as I went through the passaggio.
Mm-hmm.
And as a younger, lighter voice, that was one of the issues I could have. But it got to the point where I would often um, cover too much going through the passaggio as well, as in
Mm-hmm.
not to sing too open.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like I would cover too much as opposed to not allowing it to be a little bit more free when I was first starting out. Um, but that aria, listening to Fritz Wunderlich sing it, is one of the pieces that helped me learn to navigate my passaggio. Um,
Well, a
and I
great
did
example.
by listening to him and hearing the the acoustical adjustments he was making with the ah vowel on the high. um it was just it was just a master class. and
Mm-hmm.
and um
And he
so
kept a masculinity on those top
yes,
notes, which was
he did. He did.
beautiful.
And then to go on and listen to him to sing, things like Mahler and different things. It was just, there wasn't much
Well,
that
his
he did.
Diesbildnis is still to this day so
Yeah, and
unbelievably great, and an
yeah,
example of how to sing in German and
it,
make it sound like it's Italian.
yes, just an amazing artist, amazing voice. But yeah, I listened to a lot of those tenors. I spend a lot of time listening to, um, some of my favorite singers. Obviously Leontine Price. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, to some of the great black singers, Grace Bumbry,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Shirley Verrett,
Yes.
Betsy Norman, obviously. Um, just so many wonderful, wonderful artists that I was exposed to while at Oberlin. Um, I had the opportunity to meet Ms. Bumbry as while I was a student at Oberlin. She came to visit and
Mm.
spent time with her when she was there. Um, and
Did she hear you sing?
just briefly, but we reconnected several years ago through Facebook.
Mm.
And we would correspond from time to time. I remember, waking up one morning and there was a note from Madame Bumbry that she posted on her Facebook page. Um, you know, um, with some very kind words she had to say about.
Mm.
Um,
You're a very modest fellow, my friend. I love
uh,
that.
but it
That is
was
not
but to
typical of
receive that kind
tenors.
of to receive that kind of praise from someone you admire
Mm-hmm.
as much as I did Madame Bunbury. um there's just really no way to explain how that makes one feel.
Well, you
you know,
deserved it.
I'm,
That's
I'm,
for
I'm
sure.
humbled by her words. I was humbled by her words. I was blessed by her words, and by her candid um, advice when asked for it. um yeah, so it's you know
Beautiful. So, what do you have coming up, my friend? What's in your
uh
future?
I'm actually home for the summer right now, and I'm preparing for the new season to start up in September. Um,
Mm-hmm.
which I'll kick it off with a recital, a rescheduled date for a recital out in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay.
And then I will be heading to Madison, Wisconsin, where I'll be with Madison Opera, and I'll be singing Cavaradossi and Tosca there.
Love that role.
Uh,
Yes.
and I'm doing a several twofers this season. I'll be with Madison Opera in Tosca, but I'll also be with the Madison Symphony for some holiday concerts
Mm.
uh, in, uh, in December, I believe, early December, late November, early December, I believe. Um, then I am um, I have a concert performances with the opera Edwardsville in just outside of St. Louis, and then I head down to Miami, where I'll be with the New World Symphony for Beethoven 9. And then I'll move over to Florida Grand Opera for production of Pagliacci.
Ooh.
Um, then after that, I think I crossed the pond and head over to Germany for my German debut in Leipzig
Mm.
um, with the Gewandhaus Orchestra doing Verdi's Requiem with Maestro Franz Welser-Möst, who is the music director at Cleveland Orchestra. Um,
Fantastic.
they're in Leipzig for Verdi Requiem, and then I'm on to Vienna for my Vienna Volksoper debut, and John Adams, the Gospel According to the Other Mary.
Hmm.
They're doing a stage production of his oratorio there. I'll be
Excellent.
making my debut there in the role of Lazarus. So
Excellent.
looking forward to that.
Lots of good stuff.
I'll be doing recitals and whatnot in between. We're also planning to, in the next few weeks, to be releasing my debut album, which I did. I recently recorded an album of spirituals, which I'm extremely excited about, and really looking forward to sharing with everyone here in the next few weeks.
And we'll be able to get that like on Amazon Music or
It'll be on
everything.
all of your music
Oh,
selling platforms, streaming platforms.
I'm looking forward to
Really
that.
really looking forward to finally releasing this. This is something that's been quite a while in the making, and it finally came to fruition.
So fantastic. And people can find you and follow you at
On my
limmypulliam.com.
yes, LimmiePulliam.com. I'm also on Facebook, Limmie Pulliam Tenor, or Instagram, Limmie Pulliam, and same for Twitter as well.
Excellent. Well, folks, check out this young fellow. His voice is extraordinary. He's lived a courageous life, is living a courageous life. And as my grandmother said, the proof is in the pudding. So uh, he's got it. He's got it going on. And he not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk. My brother, I just want to thank you for taking your time to tell us your story and your thoughts about having a career and the obstacles that you've gone through. So courageous and full of faith, which I am too. By the way, my favorite biblical verse is, "Be ye not conformed to this world by the transforming of your mind." And I see that you've had to do that as you have progressed in your career. So good luck to you. And thank you so much for spending time with me today.
My pleasure, Daniel.
And folks, just want to say thanks for listening to Limmie Pulliam and myself on the Daniel Hendrick podcast every Sunday at 7 o'clock at danielhendrick.com. Also, there you can pick up my book, Know You Know, which chronicles my journey of being an opera singer and the struggles therein. So until next time, folks, God bless. See you then. My friend, thank you.
My
Wow.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Hey, I would love to send you a copy of this. If you get a chance, just send me your address.
Is it not? I might have taken it off the little tag on my email, but I'll send it to you.
Okay, I would love to send you my book. A lot of God stuff in there.
But be sure you sign it.
You got it, man. Hey, what a pleasure. You are a very unique artist. You People are asking me what does he sound like, and I'm like, he doesn't sound like anybody. He is his own
And you know,
thing.
and I'm grateful for that because I I've you if you know how often people tried to change the way I sang, even now with some of
Wow.
the maestri I've worked with, they will say, "Oh no, sing it more like this, sing it more like," and it's
Uh-huh.
like that's not how I
Not me.
sing. That's not
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they try to make me sound like other people, or sing it like other people. And I was like, no, I have to sing it like me. I have to sing it like me. Um, it's I didn't come back to this industry to want to be um, a cookie cutter tenor.
Good for
Um,
you.
so which we have enough of those,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
where it's um, my method of thinking is I don't want anyone to have to ask when listening to a recording of me, oh, who is that? Who is that?
So clear who you are.
So that they don't have to say, oh, is that so and so, or is that this? No,
Yeah.
no. I want you to be able to know within 20 seconds of hearing me that
And
that's Limmie.
and how many people are like that in the world? Just a handful of tenors of the past that you know. Of course, you hear Pavarotti, you know that's Pavarotti. Corelli, you know that's Corelli.
Yes.
Uh, so you have that as well, very unique, beautiful. I mean, I could go on and on, but you get my point. I'm a fan of yours.
Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
So God bless you. And
Too.
I'm going to put the word out about you,
Well,
whatever I can. All
I
right.
appreciate it, man. And had fun. We'll have to do this again sometime.
I would love that. John Kais was right about you. So thank you, my buddy John. He's hooked me up with a lot of folks. And then they come on and they're like, oh my God, this was so much fun. I didn't think it was going to be fun. So,
I enjoy doing this type of thing. It's just you don't get to do it very often. We got to do quite a bit during the pandemic, but you
mm-hmm.
know that it being during the pandemic, it really grew on me, and I enjoy um, just talking about opera and music, and even if not, I've done stuff dealing with politics and everything of that nature, and everything in
Cool.
between. I just enjoy having the opportunity to kind of chop it up with very smart people smarter than me.
Ah, there's your humility again. Beautiful, brother. All right, my friend, I got
Pleasure
to
to meet
run it.
you, man.
Got to run and teach now. So God bless you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Ciao. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here on the Daniel Hendrick Experience. We are every Sunday interviewing famous opera singers from around the world. And I appreciate you being here. And if you get a chance, go to my website, danielhendrick.com. And there you can find more about me and also pick up a copy of my book, which is about my life story of being an international opera singer. So until next time, God bless all of you and see you next Sunday. Take a breath.